There is a moment that nearly everyone who has ever loved a narcissist must face. It's when you accidentally see them walking hand in hand with someone new. They're smiling brightly, holding hands, and seemingly happier than ever. In that instant, all the wounds you thought had healed suddenly reopen. Your heart clenches not only from the loss, but because a familiar question echoes in your mind. How could they move on so quickly? Have they really changed? In truth, that feeling is entirely natural. Deep down, you're still seeking a reasonable explanation for the most irrational thing of all, how someone who once pledged to love you could change so fast. But the truth doesn't lie in the photo you see on social media, nor in the moments they display publicly. It lies in a familiar cycle from which they never truly escape. The new person, essentially, is not a different beginning, but simply the next version of the same old story rewritten with new promises and new emotions, yet built on the same old manipulative mechanics. And if you look closely enough, you'll realize it isn't love at all, but the repetition of their need for control and the bottomless emptiness inside them. In today's video, I want to help you strip away the illusion of that deliberately staged happiness. We will slow down and analyze with clear-eyed realism, neither sugarcoating nor bitterness, just the truth. What really happens between the narcissist and the new partner, day after day, once the social media lights go out and only the two of them remain alone in a closed room? Because understanding this not only helps you see them more clearly, but, more importantly, helps you free yourself from the illusion, from the feeling of being replaced, and from the mistaken belief that the next person will be loved more than you. For in a narcissist's world, no one is ever truly loved, everyone is simply used, and it all begins the same way and ends the same way. Stage 1. Love bombing. To understand why a relationship with a narcissist always begins brilliantly and ends in ruins, we need to go back to the very start, the phase in which they make you believe you've found true love. No one ever enters a nightmare through fear. It always begins with light, with the feeling of being loved, of being cherished, of being deeply understood. A narcissist knows this all too well. They don't rush in like a controller. They enter your life as a hero, a soulmate, or a kindred spirit you've been waiting for your whole life. From the very first days, they make you feel special. Every message, every compliment, every gesture of care arrives with such intensity that you're overwhelmed. They paint a future for you, speak of the dreams you've always held dear, and share your past pains as if the two of you were born to find each other. You begin to believe that this is not just love but destiny. In psychology, this is called love bombing, an emotional attack. It doesn't hurt immediately. Instead, it hooks you on the high it produces. Every text, every sweet word, every romantic gesture is a dose of dopamine that draws you in deeper until you can no longer tell where love ends and dependency begins. The most frightening part is that it's all deliberate. They observe you closely, memorizing every detail, what wounds you, what makes you smile, so they can construct a perfect reflection of you. They're not in love with you, they're studying you. Then, each carefully tailored word and gesture is presented back to you as proof that this person understands me better than anyone. That is the first trap, sweet, subtle, and utterly enchanting. You don't realize you're being controlled, because it's all disguised as love. But in truth, the moment you believe, this is the one for me, you've already entered their spiral, a cycle whose end only the puppeteer knows. Stage 2. The unmasking. And then, like every illusion, the light begins to fade. When the sweet phase has reached its peak, the first mask starts to crack. What defines a narcissist is that they cannot sustain the role for long. The moment you begin to feel safe, when you trust enough to let your guard down, is exactly when they start to reassess your value. They no longer see you as someone special but as an object they have tamed, and in that instant, their attitude shifts. What was once a flood of messages now becomes silence. Compliments give way to subtle remarks that leave you unsettled. A cold glance, a sarcastic comment, an abrupt distancing for no apparent reason. All these little things signal the start of a new phase. The power testing stage. The narcissist begins to see how far they can push before you object. They deliberately withdraw, make you anxious, then return with a few tender words to reassure you. In psychology, this is called intermittent reinforcement, a mechanism that addicts you to emotion, binding you more tightly to the one who hurts you because you always hope the warmth will come back. But in reality, that warmth has already served its purpose. Now, you are no longer loved for who you are, but because you have become an emotional supply, a power source that affirms their control. They observe your reaction when you're hurt, and the very moment you try to prove your love is the moment they know you're trapped. This phase is often the most confusing for the victim. You start to ask yourself, did I do something wrong? Maybe they're just tired. Surely things will go back to how they were. But no, you did nothing wrong. You are merely witnessing a stark truth. The person you loved is not the one who made you fall for them. The person you once saw was a version created to win you over, while the one standing before you now cold, distant, even cruel is the real person. And here, the true process of slow collapse begins. There is no explosion, only tiny fragments of trust, pieces of self-respect, and droplets of peace erode away, day after day. Stage 3. Triangulation and devaluation. After the mask falls, the narcissist moves into the next phase: comparison and belittling. This is one of the cruelest stages because it not only hurts you, but also shatters your sense of self-worth. By now, the narcissist has seized control of your emotions. They know you're confused, anxious, and afraid of losing the better version of them. They will exploit that fear to launch a new psychological game, the triangle game. They introduce someone else into the story, sometimes an ex, sometimes a new person, or someone vague who exists only in their narrative. They mention this other person nonchalantly, sometimes even with a smile. She would never make a big deal out of this like you do, or he understands me better. To anyone else, these comments might pass unnoticed, but to you, each one feels like a knife. You begin to compare yourself, doubt your own worth, and unconsciously strive to be good enough to reclaim the place you thought you'd lost. This is the mechanism of triangulation manipulation through emotional competition. The narcissist knows people instinctively want to feel chosen, so they create rivalry, forcing you to fight for a love that was never truly yours. From a psychological standpoint, it's a subtle form of control. They don't need to shout or threaten. They only need to sow a seed of comparison, and you will bind yourself in insecurity. You gradually lose your sense of identity because your value is now measured through their eyes, a cold gaze that shifts unpredictably and is never genuine. The more you try to prove yourself, the deeper you spiral. Each time they turn cold, you fear losing them. Each time they return with tenderness, you believe things can still get better. But in reality, they don't come back to love you. They come back to gauge how dependent you've become. And here is the cruelest part. When you begin to exhaust yourself, they will turn back to the other person, or worse, cast you as the ex to tell someone new about. That triangle never ends. It just spins from one person to another, from the once loved to the one being compared. In the narcissist's world, love is not connection. It is a tool for maintaining power. As for you, no matter how hard you try, you are merely fighting an invisible battle, a battle in which they set the rules, change the rules, and take pleasure in your defeat. Stage 4. Identity erosion. After the comparisons, the veiled remarks, the push and pull, you enter the cruelest phase, the phase in which you lose yourself. At first, the change happens so slowly you hardly notice it. You tell yourself you're just trying to do things better, more gently, in a way that fits. But little by little, you cease to be yourself. Living with a narcissist, you learn to anticipate their moods to avoid conflict. You stay silent when they rage, force a smile when they demean you, and apologize even when you've done nothing wrong. Each time, you lose a small piece of your self-respect. Eventually, you can't remember who you once were, only a diminished, pale version of yourself remains, living in fear and confusion. This is when identity erosion sets in. A narcissist doesn't simply want your love, they want total possession of who you are. They want to control how you speak, how you dress, how you think, how you feel. Every minor decision, who you see, where you go, what you say, is scrutinized. You gradually give up the things that once brought you joy, drift away from friends, lose hobbies, passions, and even your own inner voice. The most frightening part is that you don't realize you're being stripped away. When someone is manipulated long enough, they begin to believe they themselves are the problem. Maybe I'm too sensitive. Perhaps I ask for too much. Maybe they're just under pressure. These self-reassurances become invisible chains that keep you there even as your soul cries out. Psychologically, this is trauma bonding when you can no longer distinguish pain from love. Your emotions become entirely dependent on them. They smile, and you feel relief. They grow cold, and you collapse. Every part of your identity is replaced by their judgment. Day by day, you stop resisting, not because you agree, but because you are exhausted. You choose silence to keep the peace, submission to avoid harm, pretending to be okay to hold on to the last flicker of warmth. But that silence is not peace, it is the slow disappearance of yourself. And once someone loses themselves, there is no need to imprison them. Their mind has become the prison. Stage 5. Emptiness and addiction to the cycle. After your identity has been eroded, you fall into a silent yet fierce void, a void that is both painful and addictive. At this stage, your emotions are no longer stable. You live between two extremes. When they are gentle, you can breathe. When they are cold, you feel as if you cease to exist. Their silence throws you into panic, while a brief message can make you so happy you cry. And that is emotional addiction. Your body no longer responds as it once did. It has been programmed to depend on their highs and lows, affection, then indifference, then affection again. Each time they return after an outburst, you feel as though you have been saved. Dopamine, oxytocin, adrenaline, all mix together to create a chemical reaction as powerful as any narcotic. You are not addicted to them. You are addicted to the relief when the pain pauses. It is like someone drowning who feels they have survived simply by taking one breath, forgetting that they are still sinking. From a psychological perspective, this is intermittent reinforcement when the reward, love, attention, comes unpredictably. That very unpredictability keeps your brain waiting and hoping. And hope, in the manipulator's hands, is the most effective tool of control. You begin to believe that if you just try a little harder, love a little more, endure a little longer, everything will return to how it was at the beginning. But that beginning never truly existed. It was merely bait designed to keep you trapped in the loop. Gradually, you no longer live for joy, but out of fear of losing the familiar feeling. You don't want them to leave, even though you know they hurt you. You fear loneliness, silence, facing yourself. And so you stay not out of love, but because the addiction must be fed. This is the most tragic paradox for those who have loved a narcissist. They know they are being destroyed, yet they cling to the one causing the wound, believing that only that person can heal them. And while they wait for a dose of love strong enough to erase all the damage, the narcissist watches calmly, knowing that with just one message, one look, or one empty promise, they can pull you back in at any moment. Stage 6. The illusion of happiness. Finally, when every wound has been etched into your mind, the narcissist begins to stage a new performance. This time it is not for you, but for an outside audience. They understand that image is power. So they carefully retell their story, crafting a polished version. They are the one who was hurt, and the new person is the miracle who restored their happiness. Every chosen photograph, every status update, every smile before the camera is deliberate. The purpose is not to capture genuine joy, but to provoke a reaction, to hurt you, to convince others, and to allow themselves to temporarily forget the emptiness inside. This is the illusion of happiness, a strategy of ego reinforcement. The narcissist is not seeking love. They are seeking proof of their power. By displaying a perfect life with the new partner, they control both their own image and the emotions of others. Each view, each envious glance, each compliment about their beautiful relationship, all serve as fuel for that ego. To the world, they appear to be a happy couple, but behind the scenes, they live in a dreamlike fog. The new partner becomes another prop in the script, required to smile, to prove to everyone that they are the reason the narcissist changed. But backstage, nothing has changed. The outbursts of anger, the cold words, the silences that stand like walls between the two of them in the same room. The more people believe in that happiness, the more isolated the victim becomes, because no one believes that the person smiling in the photos is crying in silence. No one believes that the one who just posted a peaceful picture is counting the minutes, waiting for a warm word that will never come. From a psychological perspective, this is public mirroring, when the narcissist uses an external facade to compensate for internal decay. They need the world to witness what they cannot feel, real happiness. But it is only a wall painted in bright colors. Inside, the bricks are still rotten, the foundation still cracked. And soon enough, every coat of paint will peel away. For someone who once loved them, this phase can be the most painful trial of all. You see them smiling beside someone else, and at some moment, you find yourself asking, maybe this time they're truly happy. But remember, narcissists are not happy because they cannot sustain genuine happiness. Their joy does not come from love, but from watching you suffer. Their radiance exists only as long as someone else feels the pain it causes. And the new partner standing next to them will gradually sense the crack you once felt. And just like you before them, they will go through the same cycle: excitement, doubt, fear, and then exhaustion. Because in a narcissist's world, every happiness has an expiration date. Stage 7. The awakening. Then one day, you no longer wake up with the fear of losing them. No more waiting for messages, no more tracking every post, no more wondering whether they are truly happy. Because when the heart has been wounded enough, the mind finds its way back to reality. And that is the moment of awakening. Awakening does not come with a lightning strike, but in silence, like one morning when you look at yourself in the mirror and realize the fear has diminished. You begin to see each fragment of the illusion you once believed in. Love, attachment, promises, all merely parts of a repeating pattern, not your fault, but a pathological cycle they could never escape. From a psychological standpoint, this is the stage of emotional detachment, the reversal of addiction. The brain starts to rebalance, finding its normal rhythm when it is no longer stirred by unpredictable highs and lows. But more than a biological change, it is the resurrection of self-respect. You realize that your worth was never dependent on being loved, but on knowing when to walk away. When you step out of that cycle, the world around you remains the same, but you are no longer who you were. You no longer seek validation, no longer need to prove anything, no longer long to be understood by someone who was never capable of understanding. You begin to understand that silence is also a language, the language of strength. And in that silence, you are reborn. Every breath becomes lighter, every thought clearer. You no longer want revenge. You no longer need an apology. You no longer hope they will realize anything. Because now you have seen the truth. The narcissist does not change, but you can. Freedom does not come from their downfall, but from your rising. You no longer live in reaction to them, but in the choices of your own making. You choose peace. You choose to walk away. You choose to live authentically, needing no witness, no comparison, no belief. That is the clearest sign of a healed soul. Not when you stop remembering, but when you stop hurting from remembering. And when you reach that moment, know that you have won, not in a battle against the narcissist, but in a battle with yourself. For the greatest victory is not making them regret, but looking back at the past with calm eyes and walking forward without turning around. If you've listened this far, You've likely experienced something profound, a relationship that made you love with all your heart and hurt just as deeply. I want you to know there is nothing wrong with having loved. Those who are capable of true love are precisely those with pure hearts, rich emotions, and faith in humanity. A narcissist sees that light and then exploits it, but that does not dim your own light. It only proves that you are someone who still believes in goodness, even in a world full of wounds. If you are loving a narcissist, pay close attention to your own feelings. Do you feel you must remain silent in order to be loved? Do you apologize all too often, even when you're not at fault? Do you sense yourself disappearing bit by bit? If the answer is yes, that is not love, but control disguised as affection. And no one deserves to live under that kind of love, least of all you. Stop. Reach out to friends, family, or a mental health professional. No one escapes the maze alone, and you don't have to do it alone. If you have already broken free, know that your pain is not a sign of weakness, but proof that you loved with your whole heart. Let that pain wash over you like a tide, neither bottle it up nor drown in it. One day, it will ebb away, leaving behind a peaceful shore where you can stand and begin again. Don't rush into another relationship just to forget. Return to yourself, learn to listen to, nurture, and love yourself as you once did for someone else. Because healing is not about forgetting them, but about remembering yourself. And if you find yourself facing someone showing narcissistic signs, trust your instincts. If something makes you uneasy, even when everything seems perfect, do not ignore it. True love will never make you doubt your own feelings. Someone who truly loves you will make you feel safe, not force you to prove your worth every day. So no matter what stage you're in, remember this: you have not lost, you are not lacking, you have not been replaced. You are simply being prepared to become a stronger, wiser version of yourself. And when you can look back on what happened with a smile, no anger, no pain, no need for them to understand, that is when you are truly free. Because freedom is not about forgetting a person, but about them no longer having power over your mind. Take a deep breath. It's all behind you now. The rest of the journey is yours, and yours alone. Use your light to move forward. And if you can, forgive not for their sake, but for your own. For forgiveness is the highest form of freedom for the soul,